Welcome. Thank you for being with us today. My name is Kara Wagner, and I'm the program coordinator for Sukmyung Women's University's Tessel Teacher Training Program. We're very excited to have you with us here today as you're thinking about joining our program and becoming the best possible teacher that you can be. Whether you're looking into SMU or YL or PL, we're excited to teach you strategies and techniques to be an even better teacher. In person or online, you're going to get a great education from us, from the best teacher training program in South Korea and the oldest. Now, it is my distinct honor to introduce our program's director, Dr. Kyung-Suk Yum, and see what her words are to you.
안녕하세요. 국제적인 명성을 지닌 영어 교사 교육 전문기관 우리 숙명Tesol 입시설명회에 오신 여러분 모두를 진심으로 환영합니다. 비록 이런 영상으로 입시설명회를 대체하고 있지만 그래도 여러분 모두를 이미 환영하는 마음은 가득합니다. 우리 숙명Tesol 하면 그 사이 저희가 아주 다양한 이미지를 사용했었는데요. 고슴도치, 좀 아프지만 그래도 결론은 해피엔딩이다. 아니면 진주, 끝을 보면 다르다. 또 저희가 우리 숙명은 태솔의 사관학교다. 뭐 여러 가지 이미지를 사용하면서 그리고 심지어는 진검승부 그런 여러 가지 표를 사용하면서 저희가 프로그램을 진행해 왔습니다. 그래도 다행히 여러 가지로 20년간 저희가 명문 영어 교사교육 전문기관으로 우뚝 설 수 있었고 향후 여러분과 같이 another 20 years 20년을 같이 또 전진해 보고자 합니다. 21세기 우리 인재를 길러내는 우리 영어 교사들은 예전보다는 훨씬 디맨드가 높아졌습니다. 영어 능력, 또 교습 능력, 그리고 뉴테크를 섭렵해야 되고 또 심지어는 다문화적인 사고, 또 국제적인 어떤 이런 능력을 전부 갖춰야 됩니다. 그래서 향후 저희 숙명이 나아갈 바는 English in Multiculturalism 아니면 English in Multilingualism. 그래서 앞으로 향할 방향성은 조금 더 복잡해질 수 있으나 바로 여러분하고 같이 또 해나갈 수 있을 거라 믿습니다. 그 사이 우리 숙명이 어떻게 그렇게 그만한 명성을 얻어왔느냐 그리고 자꾸 또 물어보시는 분들 계십니다. 그리고 지금같이 디지털 시대에도 저희가 설명회를 하면 항상 많은 분들이 이 자리를 메워주십니다. 그럴 때마다 제가 하는 얘기가 있습니다. 첫째, 우리가 자랑할 수 있는 거는 우리 졸업생들이다. 저는 우리 입시 설명회를 할 때, 전공 불문, 나이 불문 얘기를 거의 20년간 해왔습니다. 왜냐면 지금은 차기 융합시다라고, 타전공 이제 가진 분들을 또 많이 환영하지만 예전부터 저는, 우리가 언어를 한다라는 거는 영어는 일종의 이제 미디엄으로 국제사회에서 자기 생각을 표현을 하고 또 자기 능력을 발휘를 하고 또 국제적인 딜을 하고 이럴 때 필요한 미디엄이라고 생각을 했기 때문에 그냥 영어 교육 분야에 계속 지녔던 경력보다 오히려 여러 가지 다른 문화적, 학문적 배경을 가진 분들이 더 적당한 역할을 할 수 있다고 생각을 했었습니다. 그래서 제가 처음부터 말하자면 전공 불문 그런 얘기 했었고요. 그리고 우리가 영어 교사가 된다라는 거는 어느 순간 내가 꿈이 있고 내가 목표하는 점이 있고 내가 이 시간이 내가 바로 시작할 수 있는 그 시간이라고 생각하면 언제라도 그것이 바로 내 커리어 패스에서 가장 적합한 가장 첫 걸음이 되는 것입니다. 그래서 저 같은 경우도 영문학 박사 교수에서 영어 교육으로 40대 초반에 전향한 경우거든요. 그래서 이게 절대 룰은 있을지 몰라도 개인 룰은 내 자신의 커리어 패스는 결국 제 자신의 책임을 지고 결정하는 것입니다. 그래서 여기 오신 여러분들은 이미 오늘 한 걸음 디뎠다고 생각을 합니다. 우리 졸업생들 중에도 너무나 다양하게 그 커리어 패스를 만들어가는 분들을 봤기 때문에 특히나 우리 장윤공 교수 같은 경우에는 워낙 교사를 하시다가 석사만 하고 돌아오신다고 갔는데 미국서 아직 안 돌아오고 계십니다. 그거는 그 SUNY State University of New York 그 빙햄튼 캠퍼스에서 지금 교수를 하고 있거든요. 그 외에도 뭐 드럭셀에서 교수를 하고 있는 우리 이근하 교수부터 시작해서 국내에 다양하게 최재호 교수님부터 뭐 다양한 그 전문 그 영어 교육직을 가지고 계시는 분들도 있으시고 차민선 대표 같이 아주 또 영어 교육 분야에서 큰 기업을 운영하고 계시는 분들도 있고 다양합니다. 그리고 명품 테솔, 토플, 토익 강사들 뭐 수없이 많습니다. 그래서 이제 어떤 식으로 향후 개척해 갈지는 바로 여러분이 결정을 하는 것입니다. 그래서 우리 졸업생들이 어디 가서 어떤 현장에서 어떤 그 등급에서 어떤 일을 하든 숙대 졸업생들은 왠지 다르다. 그런 그 인증표를 따냈기 때문에 숙명태솔이 지금 건재하고 있는 것입니다. 그리고 지금 그래서 첫 번째 비결은 바로 우리 동문들입니다. 심지어는 영어 교육 분야가 아니더라도 뭐 그 예를 들어서 서울대 행복연구소 소장님으로도 계시고 이제 다른 어떤 대학의 기획처장님으로도 계시고 다양합니다. 그래서 바로 이런 동문들의 결집으로 우리가 이렇게 큰 그 영예를 안고 있는 거고요. 두 번째는 잘 갖춰진 교육 시스템이라고 볼 수 있습니다. 저희는 처음 프로그램을 시작할 때부터 University of Maryland, 발티모어 카운티에 있는 그 프로그램하고 이솔 프로그램하고 여러 가지로 프로그램 개발부터 시작해서 교수들 그 협력까지 다 했었습니다. 그래서 저희 자격증 과정에서 지금 주고 있는 12학점이 미국 대학에 대학원 진학을 했을 때 그대로 12학점. 그 외에도 템플 유니버시티, 뉴욕 유니버시티, 유니버시티 펜실바니아 뭐 영미권의 굉장히 많은 곳에서 아직도 그 프로그램의 가치를 인정해주고 있습니다. 이게 잘 갖춰진 교육 시스템 덕분이라고 생각할 수 있죠. 또 동시에 저희가 우리 교육부에서 주관하고 있는 현직 교사 그 치마 연수 프로그램이 있습니다. 5개월, 6개월 저희 프로그램에 와서 연수를 받게 되는데요. 2007년부터 시작해서 이제는 거의 서울 시내에서는 유일하게 이런 공교육 교사 교육을 그 진행하는 프로그램이 되어 있습니다. 그래서 그만큼 시스템이 갖춰져 있는 거라고 볼 수 있는 거죠. 그래서 그 외에도 저희가 흔히 하는 얘기가 우리는 태솔 학문의 전당이다. 그래서 지금 영미권에 있는 그 영어 교육에 관련된 그 모든 교수들, 학자들, 여러분이 이제 앞으로 교재에서 보는 모든 이름들이 사실 저희 태솔이 위치하고 있는 인재관을 거쳐 가셨습니다. 오셔서 전부 특강을 하시고 가셨거든요. 그래서 이렇게 잘 갖춰진 교육 시스템이 결국은 또 하나의 비결이 되는 것입니다. 그 다음에 마지막으로 우리 교수진, 저희 시작 그 첫날부터 전원 외국인 교수진으로 이분들은 박사학위라고 저희가 자랑하지 않습니다. 이분들은 실제 영어 교육 현장에서 클래스룸 내에서 가장 그 영어 교육을 훌륭히 그 해낼 수 있는 교사 교육의 최적합자들이라고 생각합니다. 그리고 그렇게 인증을 받고 있고요. 그래서 지금까지 제가 얘기했듯이 우리 자랑스러운 동문, 이미 2만여 명이 넘습니다. 자랑스러운 동문, 잘 갖춰진 교육 시스템, 그리고 우리 그 교사 교육에 최적합화된 그 이제 교수진, 바로 이 세 분들이 그 지금까지의 20년을 그 변함없이 최고의 교육을 그 전달할 수 있게 그렇게 해준 것이라고 생각합니다. 자, 향후 그 another 20 years, 20년을 바로 여기 또 이 영상을 보고 계시는 모든 분들하고 같이 할 것입니다. 자, 여기 오늘 소망을 가지고 모이셨다면 앞으로 그 소망을 저희 숙명태솔과 같이 이루어 나갈 것을 저희는 확신합니다. 그리고 기대합니다. 자, 여러분 모두를 환영합니다. 감사합니다.
Wow. Thank you so much, Dr. Yum, for your insights and your very inspiring words. Next, I'm extremely excited to introduce you to two of our program's finest teachers. First, I'd like to introduce Dave Norton as he explains what SMU has to offer you.
Thank you for that introduction, Kara. And now, please allow me to share my screen, which is one of the techniques you will learn if you decide to join the SMU Tessel program. So this portion of our promotion event is dedicated to the SMU Tessel program, which is the flagship program of the 숙명Tesol program family. You might consider the slogan global standards with local needs. In other words, as Dr. Yum mentioned in her speech, we have partner universities all over the world, and we like to consider that our standards are equal to foreign universities also specializing in Tessel. But we also understand the unique needs of the Korean context. So a question for the viewers at home: how do the best teachers create a social environment where the most effective language learning can happen? Because remember, your classroom is a social environment. Well, to break it down into simple terms, what the best teachers do is they make better choices. They make better choices because they have more knowledge and experience about teaching. That makes sense, right? So how can you get the knowledge and experience necessary to make your future classroom a social environment where learning can happen? Well, you've already taken the first step, okay? So joining us in this video promotional event and deciding to investigate 숙명Tesol programs further, that's your first step to becoming an excellent teacher. So pat yourselves on the back, folks at home, for coming this far. That's the snowflake mascot of Sukde, if you're familiar. The SMU Tessel program is broken down into several courses. We have Methodology 1 and Methodology 2. So methodology is twice as long as the other courses. That's where you learn how to teach the different skills such as speaking or listening or reading and so on, and the different systems such as pronunciation, the grammatical system, and so on. Practicum is where you put those ideas into practice and you actually get to practice teaching your peers. Second language acquisition. This is the science of how language is learned. And so that's a class that we offer for 2 hours a week. Intercultural communication is the course that students often wonder how it fits into the Tessel program. Well, if I tell you this way, your classroom is in fact a microcosm. Your classroom, it has a culture of its own. And the more you understand about that, your culture of learning, the better teacher you can be. It's a fascinating course. Finally, we have academic skills development. This is where you learn how to perfect your writing, because you will be doing some writing in the different content courses such as methodology, second language acquisition, and intercultural communication. So this is how you learn the professional discourse of the Tessel community. You might notice another logo here. That's the tote logo, and it's on the Methodology 1 and Methodology 2 courses. I'll tell you more about that in a moment, but it's an exciting new endorsement for our Tessel students in SMU. The Tessel Online Teaching Endorsement, or TOTE, is essentially an endorsement that comes included in your SMU TESOL curriculum. And this is where we teach you how to teach the skills and systems, how to exercise classroom management, how to plan your lessons effectively, specifically in the online context. So as we're becoming more aware with the recent Corona-19 pandemic, teaching online is more and more important. It's a skill set that everybody needs if they're going to operate in the world of the future. So we're happy to offer that to our SMU TESOL students. So it's fully integrated in the SMU TESOL program. It's about learning and teaching online. We give you digital resources to optimize your online teaching and online lesson planning, classroom management. There are additional special lectures specifically about online teaching, and you'll meet regularly with your TOTE advisors so we can give you feedback on how well your planning is coming. It's really an exciting thing to be a part of the Tessel community in 2020. Now, often our applicants wonder, should I choose SMU or should I choose the Young Learners Tessel program? Well, SMU is for you if you plan to teach older students. Now, it's a general program, but we do not specialize in teaching the very young learners. We specialize in secondary school to adults. So if that's the age group that you're thinking about, please stop on by and sign the dotted line for SMU TESOL. If not, YL could be for you, or perhaps even PL. You'll learn about those later. If you're unsure of the age you will teach and you want a kind of general thing, we can say that the concepts you learn in SMU are pretty generally applicable, but again, not specializing in the young learners as much. And if you're possibly interested in pursuing a master's after graduation, it's definitely the more academic of the programs, and we have many graduates that move on to study for their MA TESOL either here at SUCDE or elsewhere, including our partner universities abroad. How long is the SMU TESOL program? Well, you are our guest for 18 weeks total, and that includes 12 hours of coursework per week, and it works out to a total of 216 hours, everything included. So it's an intensive program, but it's a worthwhile and meaningful program. Jumping right into our curriculum, as I mentioned earlier, Methodology 1 and Methodology 2. Now, Methodology 1 is the first half of the program. Methodology 2 is the second half. And you'll be joining us in the methodology classroom twice a week. Okay, so Methodology 1, we focus on how do we teach particular activities, how do we teach lessons, right? In Methodology 2, we're looking at teaching and learning in context. In other words, how do we do unit level planning? How do we plan for teaching exam prep, for example? What if we want to teach content and language integrated learning, for example, art in English or science in English? What more do we need to know? So it's really where we take those ideas kind of wider scope, and that's methodology. Methodology asks the question, what do we believe about teaching? So do you believe that everyone in your classroom has the ability to learn, or are you going to give up on some students because they're maybe not that intelligent? Maybe you don't think they're working that hard. Is there something for everybody in the classroom? That's a belief, okay? What do good teachers do? Do we engage in meaningful one-on-one feedback sessions about their learning, or do we maybe only talk to them when they're not doing so well? Okay, so these could be actions of teachers who are better or less effective, shall we say. What do we know about teaching? So what do good teachers know about the process of teaching, the craft of teaching, the science of teaching, the research behind teaching, and what's actually effective in the Korean context? What do we actually know? And so these are the questions you'll be asking yourself throughout the methodology course. Leading to second language acquisition. This is about how language is acquired, particularly the second language. We're also going to look at how your first language was acquired and what similarities and differences there might be. This includes ideas such as Bloom's taxonomy, which looks into the complexity of the thinking tasks that we're asking our students to do. So we know that higher order thinking leads to long-term memory retention and so on. So how are you incorporating that into your lesson planning or into the lessons that you're teaching? So it's very much a practical application of useful theories for teachers. Also, can a teacher from Korea teach English pronunciation? I've taught this course several times, and often some of our trainees believe that Koreans do not possess the necessary qualities to teach English pronunciation. But what if I told you this is a rule-governed system as much as grammar is? So it can be learned and it can be taught. We'll look into how we teach the sounds of English, from the consonants to the vowels and everything in between, and how that science of phonology is actually in play in your classrooms when you engage in pronunciation teaching. How do we analyze student errors? This is an important question, right? How do we know which grammar they're ready to learn? Or as we say in SLA, which grammatical morphemes they are ready to acquire? And how do we address those errors so we can apply it directly to the classroom as well? Nobody is going to jump off a roof. This is from what we call a retell task, where students talk about a story, and that's how we figure out which grammar they've acquired and which they haven't. What's the best motivation for learners? This is a big SLA question. And you'll discover that of all the variables in the among your English learners, motivation is one of the most, if not the most important variable. Personally, I would rather have highly motivated students than highly intelligent students who are not motivated any day of the week. And you'll learn why in the SMU Tessel program. Intercultural communication. Again, this is the course that students often scratch their heads about. Why are we studying culture? Well, we're not exactly studying Koreans do this, Americans do this. We're studying identity. We're studying context. We're studying culture. And where is culture? Is it in the museum? Well, sometimes, yes, some kinds of culture can be found in the museum for sure, but we focus more on understanding culture in a greater sense. Not necessarily artifacts in a museum, but perhaps the culture that you bring with you as a teacher into the classroom, or that you bring with you as a student into the classroom. So what are your norms, values, beliefs, and attitudes about teaching and learning, for example? Your classroom culture, this is the key idea behind the ICC course. Your classroom culture is critical to understand if you're going to be an effective teacher. And everyone's is different. Even if all of our students are Korean, they're all going to have a different identity, a different culture that they bring with them that will inform the way that they approach learning and teaching. So this is a really important course, and we're quite proud of it at SMU. Finally, there is the academic skills development course, as I mentioned at the top of my portion here. This is essentially a support course which helps you to do your academic writing in the content courses of SLA, ICC, methodology, so that you can also work on your professional writing and the way that you express yourself as a member of this Tessel community. So it's an essential course, it's a useful course, and we find many of our students also appreciate the language feedback that they get in our ASD course. Professional discourse, this is how we welcome you to the Tessel community in the ASD course. This is a sample essay. Please do not copy this when you come to the SMU Tessel course. Finally, Practicum. Practicum is the true finally. Practicum is, in fact, my favorite course of the entire program because this is where you apply what you've learned and you actually do some teaching in the context of your class with your classmates who act as your novice or intermediate level students. So what you do is you teach, okay, this is what teaching looks like, and you reflect on your teaching. The reflection that you do is peer reflection or self-reflection, and of course you get feedback from us teachers, but the reflection is so important in this course, sometimes we call it the reflecticum. Oh yeah. That's what reflection looks like, face-to-face reflection. That's a video reflection. And after you reflect, what happens is you improve. And when you improve, you sometimes smile like this. Okay, so improvement leads to happiness and everybody laughing in the classroom. All right, so the improvement is the best part for me as a teacher, watching our trainees improve before my very eyes. Okay, and before I leave you, there are a couple of things I want to let you know about. One of them is, let's say, for example, you'd like to join the SMU Tessel program, but you're just not available to come to the Injeguan 3 days a week and to study here in person. Well, we do have a blended class, and that's 3 hours a week, actually tonight at the time of recording. Wednesday night, we meet for 3 hours online, and then in person for 9 hours. That's a Saturday each week. Okay, so if you can only come on Saturday and online on Wednesday, you would prefer the blended course. There are also special workshops that we like to let you know about. Every semester there are special workshops that are available to you that you can come join us in the Injeguan. We have many recorded lectures as well. And actually, if you attend enough of them, you'll even get a special lecture certificate to add to your portfolio. So come on down to SMU Tessel, redefine your tomorrow. Come change your world with us. We look forward to seeing you in the classroom. Thank you so much for joining us.
In addition to being a wonderful teacher at SMU, he's also our really great SMU academic coordinator. So you'll learn a lot from him and the innovative ways that SMU will teach you. Next up, I'd like to introduce you to Luke Stunden. He's a teacher in the YL and PL program, and he's going to teach you about ways that you can grow with us.
Thanks, Cara, for the introduction. So let me go through the YL and the PL programs for you. So first of all, I'm going to look at the YL program. And as Dave mentioned, there is a little bit of overlap between all of these Tessol programs, and a lot of it kind of boils down to what kind of age level that you're trying to be teaching. So for our YL program here, the name of it, YL, is for young learners. So it is typically aimed at teachers who are trying to teach kind of pre-kindergarten to upper elementary school students. So you might be thinking, what kind of things are on the YL program? How can I compare it to the other programs so I can make the choice of, should I do this one or should I do this other one? Well, let's have a look at what we can expect. So on our YL, or Young Learner Tessol program, we have all of these wonderful courses here. We've got child development and teaching, we've got literacy development, classroom English, curriculum, language acquisition theories, and classroom management. So let's look a little bit deeper as to what exactly all of these courses can offer you. So our first one here is child development and teaching. And this is kind of focused on the idea of working with children. So you'll learn how to modify activities for traditional English. You'll look at some content-based lessons as well. You'll look at the idea of multiple intelligences that was a little bit touched on earlier. And you'll be finding out how to encourage the development of students in these regards, finding out what they're good at and fostering them to kind of keep growing with this. You will have to observe children for some of the projects, and you get to adapt some lessons to help promote child development. You're going to be looking at stuff like higher order thinking, memory, creativity, problem-solving skills, and also, as you can see on the screen there, one of the big ones is this idea of the zone of proximal development by our good friend here, Mr. Vygotsky himself. So by the end of this, you might be sick of Mr. Vygotsky, but you'll definitely know a lot about this. Next, we have language acquisition theories. And this is focusing in on specifically listening and speaking skills. So with this one, you're going to be looking at how individual differences influence a child's language learning. You get to apply language acquisition theories to support the child's language acquisition and their learning. And there's also going to be elements where you look at some time management that could also help you further yourself if you plan on going to some graduate level studies. So let's go then to classroom management. And in classroom management, this is looking at behavior and motivation. So here you're going to look at building this idea of a community in the classroom, so similar to this class culture that was touched on earlier. You want to make students feel welcome. You want to prepare a safe and positive learning environment because you don't want learning to be something that's stressful for students. So classroom management, it's going to be considering procedures for working with learners' families, including teaching and establishing what is good behavior, how to deal with students who exhibit problematic behavior, how to implement effective teaching, and also build a positive partnership with parents, right? Because learning isn't just about the student, it also involves the connection that you have with them, and also the parents could be involved in it as well. For literacy development, this is focused on the skills of reading and writing. So here, you're going to be learning how you can teach reading and understand the theories about literacy development and about how children learn to read. So as readers, students, of course, have to acquire and perfect several essential skills in both their L1 and their L2, so their native language and the language that they're learning. So in this class, you'll be touching on things like phonemic awareness and phonics, not quite to as in-depth a standard that was seen before. You'll kind of look at what does phonics mean, how can it kind of be connected with reading, and how can you ask questions that are connected to phonics and phonics development. You'll look at building vocabulary, reading comprehension, and this idea of story time in a classroom and the benefits of reading aloud to students. And also within this, this class, there will be opportunities to do mini practicums where you'll get to take the ideas you learn in class and actually teach them to some students. Next, we have curriculum, and this is the one that's all about planning lessons. So if you've never written a lesson plan before and you think this is something that would be interesting to you, then this class will definitely be something you want to keep your eyes open for. So in this class, you're going to examine models for planning language and content-based lessons. You're going to be looking at stuff like the productive skills, so speaking and writing, and the receptive skills, reading and listening. You're going to look at how you can take some task-based approaches and how you can take some more content-based approaches too. There are also elements of including songs, games, and integrating subject-specific and child-appropriate activities into your lessons. So for this, you will be looking at a few different types of lesson plan as well. So if you didn't know there were multiple types, then you do now. So definitely this one is very useful for just helping frame your thoughts and just having a clear plan on how to progress with any lesson that you're going to be teaching. Next, we have Classroom English. And Classroom English is all about learning how you can teach English in English. And it's going to be looking at the types of communicative activities that young learners need to develop. And it's going to be focused a little bit on all of the 4 skills. So those skills are listening, speaking, reading, and writing. So in this, you'll also have some opportunities to teach some activities. And it's also going to be focusing on how you can make concepts clear. So as you can see in the image there, you're going to be touching on ideas such as using realia, so bringing in real items into a classroom, using repetition, gestures, visuals, and having some hands-on activities. So definitely really useful stuff if you plan on teaching these kind of younger aged students. So one thing is going to be very similar throughout all of these different courses though. So if you have a look at these pictures, maybe you might start to realize it, but one thing that you're going to be seeing a lot of is going to be activities. There's a lot of focus around activities, how you can make fun activities, how you can make a classroom interesting and engaging. So you will focus on learn by doing, learn by making, because when it comes to teaching young learners, you do want to try and make your lessons as interesting and as fun as possible. There are also a few more opportunities to learn depending on the semester. So sometimes we may offer a community volunteer teaching program. So maybe if you're interested in the idea of becoming a volunteer, maybe inquire about that when you come in here. There's also sometimes a language doctor where we work with the kindergarten students at Sukmyong, and you can be a TA with a teacher for this and kind of see what it's like actually being in that environment, teaching students and helping out with the classroom. There may also be opportunities to help out with our summer and winter camps when they're running. And there may also be a lot of special lectures, as was mentioned earlier on. There could be some stuff like storytelling, some recorded lectures. So these can vary about which ones are offered per term, but definitely keep your eyes out for these. And we also have a children's event where we try and have children come in to the Injeguan, and we have our students actually practice teaching them through a really fun and interesting event. So for example, for this term, since it's going to be Halloween, then we're going to have a fun and interesting Halloween themed event. So that's it for our YL program, but you're not finished with me just yet because I'm also going to tell you about PL. So let me just switch over my file here, and then we'll get started with PL. And there is a little bit of overlap again between YL and PL because they're both focused more on this kind of younger level student as opposed to the more general or older age that the SMU Tessol was kind of aimed at. So let me get this up here for you. And I have, there we go. So with PL Tessol, this one is called Play and Learn Tessol. And here it's kind of focused more on the very young levels of students. So let's have a look at what this is going to offer you. So in the PL Tessol, it's a bit of a shorter program. So it's going to be focused on these 4 key classes. We've got Joyful Classroom, we've got Storytelling, Creative Teachers Workshop, and then Play and Learn English. So let's take a closer look at what exactly these courses can offer you. So the first one, Play and Learn English. So it's kind of similar, PL Tessol, play and learn English. Notice the comparison there. So in this one, you're going to be helping students gain practice using English in English to increase their confidence and comfort. So you're going to be looking at how exactly can you deal with very young students who maybe they don't really know English very well. How can you make a class kind of comfortable for them? How can you give them good instructions? And there's going to be elements of bringing song into the classroom and just really trying to create this kind of nice environment and getting practice with doing that. Our next one is Creative Teachers Workshop, and it's kind of exactly what it sounds like. It's going to be a chance for you to be creative and look more at material design and material creation. So you'll get a chance to work with your peers and your instructors to create the perfect teaching materials that you can use in any sort of environment. Each week is going to be a different topic when it comes to Creative Teachers Workshop. You're going to be looking at how can you use billboards in a classroom? How can you create puppets? What about if you want to bring in some real things from outside, go on a nature walk? Maybe we want to make some tactile materials. So this is a really fun one because it really gives you a chance to show how creative you can be. But even if you're not an artist, then it is okay. This is not a class where you have to show how good of an artist you are. It's more about the idea of showing how you can use materials and how you can bring it into a classroom in a fun and exciting way. So trust me, I am really not a good artist at all, but this is still a very, very interesting class. Next, we have storytelling. And again, this is about storytelling. So if you like the idea of reading books to a class, if you like the idea about putting on different voices, then this is going to be the class for you. It's going to be looking at how you can tell a story to students, how you can keep them interested, and how you can use the story to teach English skills. So it's not just about reading, it's also about analyzing stories and kind of figuring out how can this book be useful in a classroom. So if you're flicking through a book, maybe you might want to start looking for things like, oh, there are some really good adjectives in this book. I might want to talk about this, or the pictures in this book could be really good for a lesson on colors. There's also you actually telling the story. So there's a lot of fun where you get to listen to your teachers and your peers go through really fun and really exciting stories. And then finally, we have Joyful Classroom. And in this one, it's all about exploring the knowledge and the skills that you need to help you manage a young learner classroom. So when you're dealing with young learners, especially these very, very, very young students, things could get a little bit chaotic if you're not prepared. And when you go into a classroom, you definitely don't want to be the teacher in the first picture. I'm sure everybody would much prefer to be the second teacher. And that's kind of what Joyful Classroom is going to be focused on. How can you build this comfortable environment? How can you work with your students, right? It's not you versus them. It's everyone together helping to progress and learn. And again, similarly to what I showed you for the YL program, in our PL classes, we also have tons of activities because we really do believe in this idea of learn by doing and learn by making. I think my number one tip for anybody who's being a teacher is your classes have to be fun. And we also have the opportunities to learn here in our PL program as well through our summer and winter camps if they are running, and the special lectures, and as I mentioned, our Halloween event as well. So there's a lot of really exciting opportunities in both PL, YL, and SMU. So I really hope that you make the choice to join us here on one of our amazing programs. So thank you all and hope to see you soon.
It sounds like both the YL and PL programs have many engaging ways for our students to teach young learners. Finally, I'd like to introduce you to Jinhee Lee, our office manager, as she tells you about our program and its policies.
안녕하세요. 숙명테솔 및 테솔 입학 관련 안내드리겠습니다. 숙명테솔은 23년 이상의 역사를 가진 국내 최초 테솔 자격증 과정 교육기관으로 공교육 및 사교육 기관에서 활동하는 2만여 명의 동문을 배출하여 국내 최대의 동문 네트워크를 가지고 있습니다. 약 30여 개의 해외 명문대학들과 연계하여 SMU, YL 테솔 졸업 후에 해외 대학에 입학하는 경우 학점 인정이 가능하며 숙명여대 테솔 MA 과정 진학 시 한 학기가 인정이 됩니다. 또한 매 학기 워크숍, 세미나, 국제 테솔 컨퍼런스에 참여할 수 있는 기회를 제공하고 우수한 교수진과 멘토링 프로그램, 실습 프로그램 등 다양한 정보를 제공하고 있습니다. 숙명테솔은 국내 최대 학회 중 하나인 코테솔 국제학회를 14년 이상 숙명여대에서 유치하고 있습니다. 코테솔 컨퍼런스는 국내외 영어 교육을 선도하는 기관과 영어 교육 관련 인사들이 참가하는 행사로 특별히 숙명테솔 동문들에게는 할인된 가격으로 참여할 수 있는 기회를 제공합니다. 뿐만 아니라 국내외 영어 교육 전문가를 초청하여 다양한 특강을 매 학기 무료로 진행하고 있습니다. 숙명테솔은 국제 어린이 영어 교사 전문가 과정과 어린이 놀이 영어 전문가 과정을 운영하며 프랙티컴 실습 활동을 통해 미취학 아동 및 초등학생 대상으로 영어 실습 프로그램을 매 학기 운영하고 있습니다. 봄학기에는 YL과 PL 수강생들이 직접 기획하고 진행하는 어린이날 행사를 운영하고 있으며 가을학기에는 테솔의 외국인 교수들이 주관하고 재학생들이 진행하는 할로윈 행사를 해마다 개최하고 있습니다. 특히 할로윈 행사는 용산구의 대규모 영어 체험 학습 현장으로 2019년도에는 숙명테솔 동문 및 일반인 약 300여 명이 참석해서 재미있는 영어 체험 활동을 진행하였습니다. 뿐만 아니라 테솔 수강생들에게 다양한 봉사활동에 참여할 수 있는 기회를 제공하고 있습니다. 티칭 경험을 쌓을 수 있는 티칭 활동과 어린이집에서 영어 수업 시간 보조교사 기회와 영문 번역 활동 등이 있습니다. 숙명테솔은 매 학기 영어 교육 분야 취업을 희망하는 모든 분들을 위해 자폐어 행사를 개최하고 있습니다. 국내 유명 영어 교육 업체들이 대거 참석해서 취업, 창업 정보를 제공하고 있으며 동문들은 자격증 이수 후에 영어 교육 쪽 다양한 분야로 진출하여 활동하고 실제 프랙티컴으로 자녀들을 교육하고 있습니다. 이 사진은 취업 박람회 때 촬영된 사진들입니다. 또한 숙명테솔 홈페이지에는 국내 탑 50개 영어교육 기업체 인사 담당자들이 구직을 희망하는 숙명테솔 졸업생들의 이력서를 볼 수 있는 공간과 영어교육 업체들의 영어교사 모집 안내문이 확인 가능한 별도의 페이지를 상시 운영하고 있습니다. 앞서 말씀드렸듯이 숙명테솔은 약 30여 개의 해외 유수대학들과 연계해서 SMU, YL 테솔 자격증 취득 후에 해외 대학원 테솔 석사과정 진학 시에는 최대 12학점 연계가 가능하도록 지원하고 있습니다. 다음은 숙명테솔의 리소스 센터입니다. 숙명테솔은 학생들이 영어 교육 자료를 쉽게 접할 수 있도록 리소스 센터를 상시 운영하고 있으며 관심 있는 영어 교육 관련 신간 도서도 재학 중에 신청이 가능합니다. 입학 관련 안내드리겠습니다. 숙명테솔에서는 국제 영어교사 전문가 과정 SMU 테솔, 국제 어린이 영어교사 전문가 과정 YL 테솔, 그리고 어린이 놀이 영어 전문가 과정 PL 테솔 수강생을 모집합니다. SMU-테솔은 모든 연령을 대상으로 가르치는 영어 교사 교육으로 5개월 과정입니다. YL-테솔은 어린이 만 6세에서 12세 대상 영어 교사 교육 과정입니다. SMU와 YL-테솔 관련 설명드리겠습니다. 공동 지원 자격은 4년제 대학교 졸업 혹은 2021학년도 2월 졸업 예정이신 분만 지원이 가능합니다. 전형은 초, 중고 현직 교사이시거나 기간제 교사, 영어 전담 교사들을 대상으로 하는 특별 전형 A, 그리고 토익 850 이상, 팁스 790점 이상 등 공인 영어 성적 소지자, 그리고 영어권 국가 학사, 석사, 학위 소지자 대상으로 진행하는 특별 전형 B, 그리고 일반 전형이 있습니다. 특별 전형 A의 경우 면접 100%로 진행이 되며 특별 전형 B는 영어 성적 또는 학위 50%, 그리고 면접 50%로 진행이 됩니다. 일반 전형은 쓰기 시험 50%, 면접 50%입니다. 면접은 3명의 응시생이 한 조가 돼서 그룹당 약 10분에서 15분 정도 소요가 됩니다. 간단한 자기소개, 주어지는 주제에 관한 개인의 의견을 피력하고 다른 응시생들과의 인터랙션 능력을 평가합니다. 쓰기 시험은 서론, 본론, 결론의 에세이 형식으로 30분이 주어집니다. 채점 형식은 논리적으로 글 전개가 이루어졌는지, 그리고 영어 구사 능력을 평가합니다. 수업 시간은 SMU YL 테솔은 오전반, 저녁반, 주말반, 온오프 통합반으로 진행이 됩니다. 오전반과 저녁반은 화요일, 수요일, 금요일 일주일에 3번 수업이 진행이 되고, 주말반 온오프 통합반은 수요일과 토요일 일주일에 2번 수업이 진행이 됩니다. 온오프 통합반은 수요일은 실시간 라이브 수업으로 진행이 되고, 토요일에는 인재관에서 오프라인으로 진행이 됩니다. 온오프 통합반은 분반의 차이이며 자격증에는 별도의 표시가 되지 않습니다. 장학 혜택은 숙명여대 졸업 경무는 수강료 약 15%, 현직 정교사인 경우에는 수강료 약 30% 장학금 혜택을 받으실 수가 있으십니다. 그리고 학기 말에는 분반별로 최고득점자 우수학생에게 소정의 장학금을 지원합니다. PL테솔 관련입니다. PL테솔은 영유아 만 3세에서 7세 대상으로 영어 교사 교육과정 3개월 과정입니다. 지원 자격은 70학점 이상 이수한 4년제 재학생 및 전문 학사 및 학사학위 소지하신 분 모두 지원이 가능합니다. 수업은 오전반, 주말반, 저녁반으로 구성이 되어 있고 주 2회 이제 4시간씩 진행이 됩니다. PL테솔은 면접 100%로 진행이 되고 3명의 응시생이 한 조가 되어 입장하고 간단한 자기소개 및 질의응답 형태로 약 10분에서 15분 정도 진행이 됩니다. 수강료는 SMU YL은 입학금을 포함해서 385만 원이고 PL은 156만 원입니다. 제출 서류는 입학원서, 학사 졸업증명서, 그리고 특별전형 A 지원자는 재직증명서, 그리고 특별전형 B 지원자는 유효한 공인 영어 점수 성적표 한 부, 그리고 해외 학석사 성적표 및 졸업 예정 증명서 한 부를 제출해 주시면 됩니다. 이번 2021학년도 봄학기 지원 기간은 10월 12일 월요일에서 10월 19일 월요일까지 온라인으로 신청이 가능하고 입학 시험 전형일은 10월 24일 오프라인으로 인재관에서 진행이 될 예정입니다. 그리고 합격자에 한해 등록하신 기간은 11월 3일부터 11월 6일까지 진행이 되오니 참고해 주시기 바랍니다. 지원 원서 작성이 완료되면 자세한 사항은 숙명테솔 홈페이지에 주시기 바랍니다. 감사합니다.
Thank you so much for that. And finally, we'd like to thank all of you for thinking about 숙명Tesol. Whether you want to change careers or become an even better teacher, or even want to teach your own children, we're here to help you do that. Thank you again, and we can't wait to see you in the spring.